Hey there, weary dreamer, and welcome to yet another soothing stroll through the shadowy corridors of history. Before we delve into the perilous underbelly of Victorian London, I wanted to offer a quiet greeting to you, dear listener. Whether you're curled up under the blankets, easing into the night, or simply craving some gentle tales from the past to lull your thoughts, I'm delighted you found your way here. If you wouldn't mind, share in the comments where you're tuning in from and what hour the clock shows for you. It's always a quiet joy to glimpse our scattered community of history whispers around the globe. And if these dimly lit stories help chase away the day's echoes, a like or subscribe would warm this storyteller's heart, ensuring more peaceful journeys await. But for now, let's allow the modern world to dim as we slip into the fog-shrouded streets of 19th century England, where gas lamps flicker uncertainly and the night hides secrets far darker than sleep. Imagine yourself as one of the era's forgotten souls, a young woman drawn into the world's oldest profession, not by choice, but by the cruel grip of poverty and circumstance. Being a Victorian prostitute wasn't just a life of whispers and hidden encounters. It was a death trap, riddled with disease, violence, and relentless exploitation that claimed countless lives in silence. We'll explore this dark history softly, unraveling the threads of despair and danger, all to guide you toward restful dreams. The fog hangs heavy over London, a gray shroud that clings to the crooked streets and muffles the dawn's first light. It's the mid-19th century, and you've just stirred awake in a cramped room in Whitechapel, or perhaps Southwark, where the city's poorest crowd together in a desperate bid for survival. You're a young woman, barely past your teens, your body already worn from hunger and sleepless nights. The thin blanket draped over you, patched and smelling of damp wool, does little to fend off the chill seeping through the cracked walls. Your bed is a straw pallet, its stuffing flattened and prickly, creaking on a rickety frame in a room shared with other strangers perhaps, or women like you, bound by the same grim fate. You're a prostitute, not by choice but by necessity, driven into this deadly trade by poverty's unyielding grip. The air carries the sour temps of unwashed bodies, coal smoke, and the faint rot of refuse piled outside. A reminder of the world you're trapped in, a world where every day is a gamble with death. You sit up, the straw crunching beneath you, and rub the sleep from your eyes. The room is dim, lit only by a sliver of gray light slipping through a warped window. It's single pane if you're lucky enough to have glass clouded with grime. More likely, it's just a wooden shutter rattling in the draft, letting in the damp that settles into your bones. The walls, plastered unevenly, are stained with mildew, their cracks spiderwebbing like the worries in your mind. A tattered curtain hangs limply, offering no real privacy, and the sounds of others stirring soft coughs, the rustle of worn fabric filled the space. There's a basin in the corner, its water tepid and cloudy, used by all and cleaned by none. You splash your face, the cold stinging your skin, and pull on your clothes, a faded dress, its hem frayed from muddy streets, and a shawl so thin it's more a gesture than protection. A bonnet, crumpled but necessary, hides your face from the judging eyes you'll meet outside. The smell of the city presses in, a tapestry of coal smoke, sewage, and the faint yeasty warmth of a nearby bakery you can't afford. You hear the street waking below, vendors shouting hot pies, fresh fish, over the clatter of carts and the squawk of gulls scavenging near the Thames. It's a far cry from the quiet mornings of a modern world with its electric hum and soft bedding. Here, every day begins with the grind of survival, a rhythm as relentless as the river itself. You're in Victorian London, a city of glittering wealth and grinding poverty, where the Industrial Revolution has built empires for some and broken lives for others. You're among the broken, one of countless women pushed to the margins, where the only currency is your body and the price is your soul. Step to the window, and the view is a grim portrait of the slums. Narrow alleys twist like scars through the city, lined with timber-framed tenements that lean inward, their upper stories nearly kissing above the cobblestones. The streets are a mess of mud and filth, churned by boots and wheels, with open gutters carrying a sluggish stream of wastewater, kitchen scraps, and worst chamber pots emptied with a shouted gardes low. If the dumper bothers to warn, rats scurry in the shadows, their eyes glinting, bold from years of plenty. The air is thick with the stench of tanneries, where hides soak in sour vats, and the fishy reek of Thames catches, sold by hawkers whose stalls cluster nearby. Gas lamps stand unlit, waiting for night to cast their feeble glow. But for now, the dawn is gray, filtered through a fog that smells of coal and despair. This is a city scarred by disease and want. Cholera swept through a decade ago, its memory lingering in the posies tucked into pockets and the quicklime scent of old burial pits. The workhouse looms as a threat, its walls promising shelter, but delivering misery. Families split, labor endless, dignity a distant memory. You've avoided it, but only just, choosing the streets over its chains. Society's hypocrisy is a heavier weight, its moral façade as stifling as the fog. Queen Victoria's name evokes virtue and progress, but here, in the slums, that virtue is a lie. Men of every class, lords, clerks, laborers, seek you out in the dark, their coins buying silence, yet in daylight they condemn you as a fallen woman. The church preaches salvation, but bars its doors. The wealthy pity from afar, but offer no hand. Women like you orphans, widows, girls cast out for a single misstep bear the brunt of this double standard. Your lives a sacrifice to the city's hidden desires. You were likely one of those girls once. Perhaps you came from a village where fields failed and rents rose, your family unable to keep you. Tales of London's opportunities drew you a maid's job, a shop counter, but the city betrayed you. Domestic work meant scrubbing floors for pennies, dodging a master's hands, until a dismissal left you homeless. Or maybe a lover's promise turned to ashes, his abandonment leaving you ruined in a society that forgives men but not women. Hunger drove you to the streets, a single act of desperation becoming a life. Now you're here in this tenement, your youth fading under the weight of survival. Your hands are rough from cold and work, your face pale from hunger, your eyes carrying a weariness no one should know so young. Breakfast is a meager affair, crust of bread, perhaps a sip of ale or tea brewed from used leaves, shared with the others in the room. The hearth, if there is one, is cold, its ashes swept to save for later. Coal is too dear, and you've shivered through too many nights to waste it now. Hunger gnaws, a quiet ache that's never far, urging you out into the streets, where a few shillings might buy a meal. But those shillings come at a cost, each client a risk, each night a step deeper into a life you can't escape. The law is no ally. The contagious diseases acts, passed in the 1860s, target women like you, not the men who pay. A policeman's glance could mean arrest, a forced examination, or a cell, while your clients walk free, their sins unjudged. Outside, the street is a living thing, pulsing with the desperate energy of the poor. You step into the crowd, your bonnet low, avoiding the eyes of neighbors who know your trade and whisper behind their hands. The cobblestones are slick with mud and worse, and you sidestep the gutters, where rats dart and flies buzz over rotting scraps. Hawkers cry their wares: apples, matches, wild children, barefoot and ragged, beg or steal what they can. The Thames is near, its murky waters carrying the city's waste, its smell a constant undercurrent of mud and decay. You pass a butcher's stall, the air sharp with blood, and a gin shop, its door open, promising cheap oblivion. Gin is everywhere, its burn a refuge for those who can't afford hope, and you've tasted it, felt its warmth dull the cold and the shame. If only for a moment, the social divides are stark, etched into every glance and doorway. The wealthy live in grand terraces, their lives cushioned by servants and surplus, while you share a room with strangers, your belongings a bundle you can carry. Class marks, you, your tattered dress, your unwashed hair, making you a target for disdain or predation. Yet the men who scorn you by day seek you by night, their hypocrisy a thread woven through the city. Women of the upper classes, in their crinolines and bonnets, pass in carriages, their eyes averted, their charity distant. You're invisible to them, except as a cautionary tale, a warning to their daughters. The slums are your world, their tenements packed with families, laborers, and others like you, all fighting for scraps in a city that thrives on their struggle. The vulnerability of your life is a constant hum, like the distant toll of church bells. Disease is a whisper in every touch, a client's breath, a shared cup, the fleas in your bedding. Violence waits in every shadow, a client's anger, a rival's jealousy, or a pimp's fist if you're under one's control. Exploitation is the air you breathe. Landlords, madams, even the police take their cut, leaving you with nothing. You navigate the market now, bartering for a loaf or a bit of cheese, your coins clutched tightly, knowing they must stretch to cover rent. Food, perhaps a dram, to ease the night's fears. The crowd presses in, a sea of bodies, costermongers, maids, pickpockets, all bound by the same struggle. You keep your head low, avoiding the peelers, their blue uniforms a threat as real as hunger. The morning unfolds, slow and heavy, each moment a negotiation with fate. You're young, but the city ages you, its weight carving lines into your face. You might remember a time before a village green, a mother's voice, but those memories are ghosts, fading in the fog. Shame is your shadow, fed by the sneers of passers-by, the sermons branding you a sinner. Yet you have no choice but to move forward, each step a defiance of the odds. The tenements loom around you, their wooden frames sagging, their thatch dry. From a long summer, the air carries the city's pulse, smoke, rot, the faint warmth of bread you can't afford. As you walk, the fog curls tighter, a reminder of the dangers waiting in the night disease. Violence, exploitational threads in a tapestry that binds you to this deadly trade. This is just the beginning. A single day in a life where survival is a miracle. The streets hold you, their rhythm a grim lullaby, carrying you toward the next peril. For now, you clutch your shawl, count your coins, and step into the crowd. A figure in the shadows, your heart beating with a quiet strength that refuses to break. The fog lingers, a cold veil over London's slums, as you step out from your cramped tenement into the restless pulse of Whitechapel's streets. The morning is young, the air sharp with coal smoke, and the sour stench of the gutters where yesterday's refuse mixes with the damp of last night's rain. Your dress, patched and fraying, clings to your skin, and your shawl offers scant warmth against the chill that seeps into your bones. The coins in your pocket turned from the night before, a few, barely enough for a loaf or a corner of a shared bed. You're a young woman, perhaps not yet 20, but the weight of survival has carved a wariness into you that belies your age. The trade you've fallen into, prostitution, is no choice but a necessity, a path paved by desperation and sealed by the unyielding grip of exploitation. As you move through the crowded alleys, let's trace how you came to this life, how the city's promises turned to traps, and how the hands of madam's pimps and clients wove a net from which escape is a fading dream. Your journey likely began far from these grimy streets, in a village where fields stretched wide but yielded little. Perhaps you were a farmer's daughter, your family scraping by on meager harvests, or an orphan left to fend for yourself when fever claimed your kin. The countryside held no futurance, rose, work dwindled, and the workhouse's shadow loomed large. Stories of London reached you, a city of factories, shops, and grand houses needing maids or seamstresses. A recruiter might have come, his voice smooth as he promised steady wages, or a letter from a cousin painted the capital as a place of opportunity. With a bundle of belongings, spare shift, a worn Bible, perhaps a ribbon from better days, you boarded a cart or train, your heart flickering with hope. The city, when you arrived, was a shock, a labyrinth of smoke and noise, its streets teeming with bodies, its air thick with the stench of coal, and the Thames's muddy reek. London's promises were hollow for girls like you. Factory work meant 14-hour days for pennies, the looms deafening, the overseer's hands to free. Domestic service, if you found it, was no better scrubbing floors until your knuckles bled. Dismissed for a broken dish or a master's unwanted advance. Lodging ate your wages, a shared room in a slum costing more than you earned, and food was a luxury, stale bread, a thin soup, or nothing at all. Alone, without family or friends, the city was a cold stranger, its streets a maze where hunger stalked closer each day. The first step into this trade was likely a single act of desperation, a shilling offered by a stranger in a tavern, enough for a meal or a night's shelter. The shame burned, but hunger was sharper, and one act became two, then a life, each step pulling you deeper into a world you never chose. Exploitation was waiting, its tendrils curling around you from that first moment. Perhaps a madam found you, her smile warm but her eyes calculating. These women, often former prostitutes, hardened by the trade, ran brothels disguised as lodging houses or introduction agencies. Their doors opened to girls like you, hungry, homeless, hopeless. She offered a bed, a dress, a hot meal, but it came with a price: work under her roof, clients chosen by her, and half your earnings, often more hers. The debts piled up: rent, food, even the gaudy gown you wore, binding you tighter than any chain. Her house was a trap, its walls papered with faded finery, its air heavy with cheap perfume and cigar smoke. You shared a room with other girls, their faces mirroring your own, pale, tired, some barely past childhood. The madam ruled with a sharp tongue and sharper threats, her hand quick to slap or evict if you faltered. If not a madam, a pimp might have claimed you. These men prowled the markets and gin shops, their charm a lure for girls adrift. He might have been a lover at first, his words sweet, his promises of protection a balm to your loneliness. But love turned to control, his demands backed by fists or a knife's glint. He sent you to the streets, watching from a tavern as you solicited, his cut non-negotiable. Failure to earn enough meant a beating, the bruises hidden under your shawl, the pain a silent companion as you worked. Some pimps worked with madams, a partnership of profit, while others roamed alone, their eyes on every girl who crossed their path. You were their currency, your body a commodity, and escape was a dream crushed by fear and need. Clients were the heart of this trade, yet their power over you was absolute. They came from every corner of Victorian society: aristocrats in silk vests, clerks with pinched faces, sailors flush with pay, even clergymen hiding beneath wide hats. The hypocrisy was stark. These men upheld the era's moral code by day, preaching virtue or family, yet sought you out by night, their coins buying your silence. In a brothel, you met them in a dim parlor, the air thick with the scent of wine and sweat. Their demands whispered or barked. On the streets, it was darker alleys, behind theaters, doorways near Haymarket, or the cold banks of the Thames, where privacy was a fleeting illusion. Each encounter was a transaction, but the terms were theirs: a shilling for a quick act, perhaps two if they felt generous, but always on their whim. Your safety a gamble. The sensory weight of this life presses in as you walk the streets now, your bonnet low to hide your face. The fog is a constant, damp and clinging, carrying the stench of sewage from open gutters and the acrid bite of coal smoke from countless chimneys. Your shoes, thin and patched, slip on the cobblestones, slick with mud and worse, and the cold numbs your fingers until they ache. The city's sounds are a grim chorus, the clop of hooves, the shouts of hawkers selling oysters or matches, the laughter from a gin shop where men drink away their wages. You pass a street preacher, his voice droning about sin, his gaze sliding over you with disgust. Children dart through the crowd, their bare feet splashing in puddles, their eyes sharp for a chance to steal or beg. The Thames is near, its smell of mud and rot a constant undercurrent, mingling with the faint warmth of bread from a bakery you'll never enter. The brothel, if you're bound to one, is a world apart, its façade blending into the slum's chaos. From outside, it's just another tenement, its windows curtained, its door unmarked. Inside, it's a maze of narrow corridors, lit by flickering oil lamps, the air heavy with rosewater and the sour temps of unwashed bodies. The madam greets you with a nod, her eyes counting the girls like coins. You're given a garish, a mockery of respectability, and sent to a parlor where clients wait, their faces blurred in the dim light. The other girls are your sisters in suffering, sharing whispers of escape or lost hopes, their voices low to avoid the madam's wrath. Some are so young 12, 13, their eyes wide with fear or dulled by resignation, sold by desperate parents or lured by procurers who thrive in the city's shadows. If you work the streets, the day is yours, but freedom is a lie. You linger near Covent Garden, where theaters draw crowds, or the Strand, where taverns spill drunken men into the night. Your presence is subtle, a glance, a murmured word, lest you draw a policeman's eye. The contagious diseases acts loom, allowing officers to arrest you on suspicion alone. Their truncheons, a threat as real as hunger. A wrong move could mean a cell or a forced examination. Your body probed while the men who pay you walk free. Your earnings are meager pennies per client, enough for a crust or a dram of gin, but never enough to save. Landlords charge extortionate rents for slum rooms, and any debt to a madam or pimp eats what's left. Hunger drives you back to the streets each night, a deeper descent into a life you can't escape. The emotional toll is a quiet weight pressing on your heart. You might remember a time before village fair, a mother's touch, a dream of a different life, but those memories are ghosts fading in the fog. Shame is your companion, fed by the sneers of passersby, the sermons branding you a sinner, the knowledge that you're seen as less than human. Yet you have no choice but to continue each night a step deeper into the abyss. The girls around you are comrades, but also rivals, competing for the same coins. Their stories echoing your seduction, abandonment, hunger. Some turn to gin or laudanum, their eyes glassy as addiction takes hold. A slow poison, cheaper than hope. The youngest haunt you most, their innocence stolen, their fates a mirror of your own. As evening falls, the city shifts, the gas lamps flickering to life, casting long shadows that hide both danger and opportunity. You adjust your bonnet, check your coins, and steel yourself for the night. The fog thickens, wrapping you in its cold embrace, the streets alive with drunken laughter and the clink of shillings. Each step is a gamble, disease, violence, arrest, but also a chance to survive another day. The exploitation that drew you here, madams, pimps, clients, a web you can't untangle. The city's hypocrisy surrounds you, its moral mask hiding the hands that profit from your ruin. Yet you walk on, your breath visible in the chill air, your heart beating with a defiance that refuses to break, carrying you deeper into the shadows of Victorian London. The evening deepens, and the fog thickens over London's slums, wrapping the narrow streets in a damp, grey shroud. You stand in an alley off Drury Lane, your shawl pulled tight against the chill, the faint glow of gas lamps barely cutting through the haze. The cobblestones under your worn shoes are slick with mud and filth, and the air carries the acrid bite of coal smoke mixed with the sour reek of the nearby Thames. Your bonnet hides your face, but it can't shield you from the weight of the night's work ahead. You're a young woman, trapped in the perilous trade of prostitution. Your life a daily negotiation with hunger, exploitation, and now a quieter but deadlier threat, disease. The clients you meet, sailors, clerks, gentlemen in fine coat spring, Not just coins, but an invisible danger that seeps into your body, a silent killer that makes every encounter a brush with death. Let's linger here, in the shadows of Victorian London, to trace the diseases that ravaged from within, turning your trade into a death trap in an age without mercy or medicine. Each step you take through the crowded streets is heavy with risk, but the threat of venereal disease, syphilis, gonorrhea, and others looms larger than the violence or arrest waiting in the dark. You pause near a tavern, its windows spilling warm light and raucous laughter as a man approaches. His breath smells of gin, his eyes sharp with intent, and you agree to a shilling for a moment's company in a shadowed doorway. The act is quick, mechanical, the cold biting your skin as you brace against a damp wall. But every touch carries a hidden cost, a chance that disease has already taken root. Syphilis, whispered as the pox or French disease, is the most feared, its symptoms a creeping horror that unfolds over months or years. At first, it might be a small sore, painless and easily ignored, appearing weeks after a client's visit. You might notice it as you wash in a cracked basin, the tepid water offering no comfort, and hope it's nothing a cut, a bruise, but deep down you know better. The sore fades, and you breathe a quiet relief, but syphilis is a deceiver. Weeks or months later, the second stage stirs a rash, spreading across your arms or chest, red and rough, or sores in your mouth that ache with every word. Fever grips you, your body heavy as you trudge through the fog, your head pounding with a dull, relentless pain. You've seen other girls with these signs, their faces pale, their steps faltering, yet they work on, driven by hunger and the madam's demands. In a brothel, where you might share a room with half a dozen others, the madam's sharp eyes catch any weakness. She might send you to a back room to rest without pay, or worse, cast you out to the streets, where clients are less forgiving of visible illness. On your own, you hide the rash under your shawl, praying the dim light conceals it, knowing each night's work spreads the disease to clients, to other girls, to yourself if reinfected. If untreated, damned treatment is a luxury, you can't afford syphilis. Third stage is a nightmare whispered in the slums. Years down the line, it attacks bones and joints, making every step agony, as if your body is splintering from within. Your mind frays, memories slipping, your speech slurred until neighbors whisper of madness. You've heard of women locked in asylums, their cries ignored, or left blind, stumbling through alleys until hunger or cold claims them. The disease can disfigure, leaving lesions that mark you as cursed, driving away even the most desperate clients. Death comes slowly, a wasting away, your body a battlefield where syphilis wins every fight. In Victorian London, it claims countless lives, girls like you, their graves unmarked, their suffering erased. The men who spread it, from aristocrats to laborers, often escape for years, their wealth buying quack cures or silence, while you bear the scars of their hypocrisy. Gonorrhea is less deadly, but no less cruel. It burns with every movement, a fire in your body that makes work unbearable. You've seen girls clutch their stomachs, their faces twisted in pain, yet they walk the streets, hiding their suffering to earn a coin. For women, gonorrhea can scar inside, stealing the chance of children or causing chronic pain that lingers like a ghost. In the crowded tenements, where you share a bed or a basin, hygiene is a dream. Water is scarce, soap rarer still, and fleas leap from straw to skin, carrying other ills. The air in your room, thick with the smell of damp wool and unwashed bodies, is a breeding ground for infection, and the rags you use to clean yourself only spread it further. You try to stay clean, splashing cold water from a jug, but it's a futile act against a tide you can't stem. Medical care is a distant hope, reserved for those with money or status. Hospitals, like St. Bartholomew's, are overstretched, their wards grim with the moans of the dying, their doctors more likely to experiment than heal. For you, seeking help means admitting your trade, inviting scorn, or worse detention. Under the contagious diseases acts a legal trap that targets women like you. These laws, passed in the 1860s, aim to protect soldiers by policing prostitutes, not clients. A policeman can arrest you on suspicion your dress, your presence in a tavern, a glance deemed too bold, and drag you to a lock hospital. There, in a cold room, a doctor's rough hands probe without consent. Your dignity stripped as you're told it's for your own good. If infected, you're locked away for months, treated with poisons like mercury that burn your throat and loosen your teeth, your livelihood stolen while the men who paid you walk free. Quack remedies are your only recourse, peddled in markets or dim apothecaries. Mercury pills, bitter and metallic, promise a cure but deliver tremors and graying gums, weakening you with every dose. Herbal tonics, tasting of despair, cost pennies you can't spare, and salves offer fleeting relief but no salvation. You've seen girls waste away under mercury's weight, their skin sallow, their eyes hollow, yet they swallow it, clinging to hope. The cost eats into your earnings already meager, already claimed by rent or a madam's cotton. The results are a cruel jest, the disease laughing at your efforts. In the slums, knowledge is scarce. You've heard whispers of bad blood or tainted humors, but no one explains, no one cares. The stigma of disease is as heavy as the illness itself, marking you as untouchable, driving you deeper into isolation. The sensory burden of this life is unrelenting. The fog dampens your hair, the cold numbing your fingers until they ache. Your dress clings, heavy with damp, and the corset you wear if you have one bites into your ribs. Each breath a small struggle. The city's smells are a grim tapestry. Sewage from the gutters, coal smoke from chimneys, the faint sweetness of rotting fruit piled nearby. Sounds surround youth, a clink of glasses from the tavern, the distant cry of a watchman, the soft moans of girls working nearby. Your body carries its own warnings, a faint itch, an ache that lingers, a fever that comes and goes. You push them aside, knowing stopping means starvation, but the fear is a constant hum, whispering of the disease that could end you. Isolation compounds the pain, a wound as deep as any sore. You're cut off from the world of respectability. Family, if you had one, has disowned you. Churches offer sermons, not sanctuary. The other girls are your only kin, but competition strains even those bonds. Each of you fighting for the same coins, the same corners. You've seen what happens to those who can't hide their illness, cast out of brothels, shunned by clients, left to beg or die in the streets. You've heard their names in whispers. Sarah, her face marred by sores, begging by the Thames. Lucy, locked in an asylum. her mind gone. The fear of discovery is a shadow, as real as the disease itself, pushing you to work through pain, to smile through fear, to hide the signs that mark you as doomed. As the night unfolds, you move to a busier street where theater crowds spill out, their laughter a stark contrast to your quiet dread. The fog curls tighter, the gas lamps flickering like dying stars. You adjust your bonnet, hiding any hint of illness, and force a smile for the next client. Each encounter is a roll of the dice wheel. This one bring the disease that ends you, or has it already taken hold? The pain of a sore or the burn of fever is a warning you can't heed, for survival demands you keep moving. The contagious disease's acts loom, their threat as real as the disease, and the quack remedies in your pocket are a fragile hope. Yet you persist, your steps careful, your heart beating with a defiance that refuses to break, carrying you deeper into the shadows of a city that thrives on your ruin. The fog grows denser, cloaking London's slums in a damp, gray veil as you stand in a shadowed alley off Haymarket, the gas lamps casting weak pools of light that barely touch the darkness. Your shawl, thin and frayed, clings to your shoulders, offering little defense against the chill that numbs your fingers. The cobblestones beneath your worn shoes are slick with mud and the remnants of the day's refuse, their uneven edges threatening to trip you with every step. You're a young woman, trapped in the perilous trade of prostitution, your life a constant dance with danger. The diseases that haunt your every encounter are a silent threat. But now, as night deepens, a more immediate peril looms. Violence. In the unforgiving streets of Victorian London, clients, pimps, and even rivals wield power with fists and blades, making every night a gamble where the stakes are your survival. You lean against a damp wall, your bonnet pulled low to hide your face, your eyes scanning the crowd spilling from a nearby theater. The laughter and chatter of well-dressed men and women feel like echoes from another world, one that shuns you in daylight but seeks you in the dark. A man approaches, a sailor, perhaps, his gait unsteady from drink, or a clerk with a nervous. You've learned to read their eyes, to gauge their intent, but some mask their danger too well. A deal is struck a shilling for a moment's company in the alley's shadows. The transaction whispered quickly to avoid a patrolling policeman's notice. The act is brief, the cold biting your skin as you brace against the wall, but the mood can shift in an instant. A client's anger flares over a price, a refusal, or nothing at all, and a fist connects with your cheek. The pain sharp and sudden, your head ringing as you stumble. Bruises bloom beneath your dress, hidden from the next client, but the ache lingers, a constant reminder of your vulnerability. Violence is a specter that stalks every corner of this life. Clients are unpredictable, their power absolute in the dim alleys or rented rooms where you work. Some are kind, slipping an extra penny with a muttered thanks, but others are cruel, their desires laced with rage. A shove against a wall, a hand tightening around your throat, or a knife glinting in the gaslight. These are the risks you face with every encounter. You've heard stories from other girls, whispered in the dim light of a lodging house. Mary, beaten until her jaw broke for refusing a client's demand. Eliza, robbed of her earnings and left bleeding in a doorway. The cobblestones bear silent witness, stained with the struggles of women like you, their cries swallowed by the fog. Each night's work is a roll of the dice, and too often the outcome is pain or worse. Pimps are a darker threat, their control enforced with brutal efficiency. If you're under one's thumb, your earnings are his, counted with a cold eye as he waits in a tavern or brothel parlor. Failure to meet his quota, whether from a slow night or a client's refusal to pay, brings swift punishment. A slap might be the least of it. You've seen girls with blackened eyes, split lips, or limbs twisted from a pimp's rage, forced to work through the pain because stopping means starvation. Some pimps patrol the streets, their presence a constant warning, their knives a promise of what happens if you defy them. His protection, a lie that binds you tighter than any debt. No refuge, only the streets and their endless dangers. Rivals add another layer of peril, their desperation mirroring your own. Other women, working the same corners, compete for the same clients, their eyes sharp with hunger. A prime spot near a theater or tavern is worth fighting for, and fights are not gentle. A shove, a scratch, a hissed threat can escalate in seconds, fueled by the need to survive. You've seen girls pull hair or wield broken bottles, their faces contorted with rage or fear, their bodies as battered as yours. The air carries the tension, soft curses, the rustle of skirts as someone retreats, the occasional cry cut short by a blow. You keep your distance, your steps careful, but the threat of a rival's anger is as real as a client's fist. The law offers no shelter, its weight falling heaviest on women like you. The police, or peelers, patrol with truncheons and suspicion, their blue uniforms a warning to stay discreet. If you're attacked, reporting it is futile. They see you as the problem, not the victim. A cry for help might earn a sneer, or an arrest for disorderly conduct, your bruises ignored, your story dismissed. The courts are harsher still, magistrates quick to brand you a liar, their gavels sealing your fate. The contagious diseases, acts, as we've seen, make you a target, but even without them, the law is no ally. You've heard of women jailed for defending themselves, their pleas ignored, their injuries untreated. Prison cells are damp and cold, the gruel barely sustaining, and release only returns you to the streets, where the cycle begins anew. The specter of murder haunts the darkest corners of this life. In the 1880s, Jack the Ripper's name will terrify these streets, but even now, in the 1860s, death is a constant shadow. You've heard whispers of women found in alleys, their throats cut, or floating in the Thames, their deaths barely noted. Another unfortunate, the papers might say, if they report it at all. These were girls like you, Anne, Jane, sororking the same corners, sharing the same fears. Their lives snuffed out by a client's rage or a killer's whim. The fog hides their fates, just as it hides you now, your breath catching at every footstep. The sensory weight is crushing, the damp chill numbing your hands, the stench of sewage and gin, the faint metallic taste of fear in your mouth, the thud of boots, a scream swallowed by the night teach, a reminder that violence is never far as you move through the crowd. The fog curling around you, you feel the weight of every glance. Theatergoers pass, their laughter a stark contrast to your quiet dread, their lives untouched by the perils you face. Your dress, damp and heavy, clings to your legs, and the cold seeps into your bones. making each step a small battle. You adjust your bonnet, hiding the bruise from last night's client, and force a smile for the next. Each encounter is a risk, a blow, a theft, a blade, but you can't stop, for hunger and rent wait for no one. The violence that stalks you is a constant hum woven into the city's pulse, and yet you walk on, your heart beating with a defiance that refuses to break, carrying you deeper into the shadows of Victorian London. The night deepens over London's slums, the fog a thick veil that clings to the narrow alleys, muffling the faint glow of gas lamps. You move through the crowd near Spitalfields, your shawl damp and heavy, your shoes slipping on cobblestones, slick with mud and refuse. The air is heavy with the sour stench of open gutters, the acrid bite of coal smoke, and the faint sweetness of rotting scraps piled in corners. Your pocket holds a few pennies, last night's earnings, barely enough for a crust of bread or a shared bed in a lodging house. You're a young woman, worn by the relentless trade of prostitution, your body scarred by hunger, disease, and the violence that lurks in every shadow. The exploitation that trapped you and the diseases that ravage you are constant threats. But now we linger on the grinding weight of poverty and social exile, forces that erode your spirit as surely as any fever. As the night fades, we'll trace the inevitable endeth's quiet grip, the forgotten graves, and the faint echoes of resilience that linger in Victorian London's unforgiving streets. Your steps are heavy as you navigate the crowded alley, your bonnet low to shield your face from the stares of passers-by, hawkers shouting oysters, matches, children begging with outstretched hands, men stumbling from gin shops with slurred laughter. The coins in your hand are a fragile lifeline, but they slip through your fingers like water. A night's lodging in a tenement, shared with a dozen others on straw pallets, rank with sweat and damp, costs fourpence more if the landlord smells desperation. A loaf of stale bread is tuppence, a scrap of cheese or a bowl of watery soup another penny, and hunger gnaws at your stomach, a constant ache that clouds your thoughts. If you're bound to a madam or pimp, their cut takes half your earnings, sometimes more, leaving you with scraps to survive. Debts pile up: rent for a corner of a room, a borrowed dress, a meal you couldn't pay for rand. Each coin you earn is already owed, a chain that binds you tighter than any prison. Poverty is the heartbeat of this life, a relentless rhythm that drives you back to the streets. You might find shelter tonight in a lodging house, its air thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and mildew, its walls echoing with coughs and murmurs. The pallet you share is lumpy, its straw poking through thin linen, but it's better than the alternative: huddling in a doorway or under a bridge, the cold seeping into your bones until you shiver through the night. Food is a distant hope. Yesterday's meal was a crust shared with another girl, her eyes as hollow as yours, her hands trembling from hunger or gin. The market you pass is alive with smells: fresh bread, roasted chestnuts, but they taunt you out of reach. You barter for dialed scraps, your coins clutched tightly, knowing they must stretch to cover rent, a dram of gin, or a madam's demands. Addiction is a shadow within this trap, its pull as strong as hunger. Gin shops dot the slums, their doors open, their signs promising warmth and oblivion for a penny. Gin's burn is a fleeting escape from the cold, the shame, the fear of another night's work. You've tasted it, felt its fire dull the ache of a bruise or the sting of a client's words, but it's a cruel ally. You've seen girls succumb, their hands shaking, their eyes glassy as they beg for one more dram, their bodies wasting under its grip. Laudanum, peddled in alleys or apothecaries, is another. Larit's opium haze softens the world, but its cost eats your coins, leaving you dazed and vulnerable. You've seen women slump in doorways, their breaths shallow, their deaths called accidents to avoid questions. The choice is grim, starve or drink, and too often you choose the latter. The liquid fire, a small rebellion against a life that offers no hope. Social exile cuts deeper than hunger, a wound that isolates you from the world beyond the slums. You're a fallen woman, a label that clings like the fog, branding you unfit for redemption. If you had family, they've turned away, their letters unanswered, their doors barred to a daughter who shames them. You might remember a mother's touch, a village fair, a dream of a different life, but those memories are ghosts, fading in the city's grind. The church offers sermons, not sanctuary, its pews filled with those who judge you without knowing your story. Honest work sewing, laundering, services closed to you. No employer will hire a woman with your past, real or rumored. Even in the slums, your apart neighbors share your poverty but not your stigma, their glances cold, their children pulled away as you pass. The other girls are your only kin, but competition strains even those bonds, each of you fighting for the same coins, the same corners. The sensory weight of this life is crushing. The fog dampens your hair, the cold numbing your fingers until they ache. Your dress, heavy with damp, clings to your legs, and your shoes, thin and patched, offer no protection from the cobblestone's bite. The city's smells are relentless, the sour reek of sewage, the coal smoke that stings your eyes, the faint warmth of a bakery you'll never enter. Sounds surround you, the clatter of carts, the shouts of hawkers, the laughter from a gin shop, where men spend what you risk your life to earn. Your body carries its own burdens, a hunger that twists your stomach. A bruise from last night's client, the faint itch of a sore you pray isn't disease. Each step through the crowd is a negotiation, avoiding the eyes of policemen, their truncheons a threat as real as hunger. The night stretches on, and the fog grows thicker, wrapping you in its cold embrace as you linger near a tavern, its windows glowing with warmth you can't afford. The coins in your pocket are spent, rent paid, a crust bought, perhaps a dram of gin to dull the night's fears, but the grind of poverty and exile has left you teetering on the edge of oblivion. Death is no stranger in this life. It walks beside you, a silent companion in the alleys and tenements, claiming girls like you with a quiet inevitability. Disease, violence, addiction, or disparage is a thread in the tapestry of your ruin, weaving a fate that few escape. As we trace this final chapter, we'll linger on the end that awaits the forgotten graves, and the faint glimmers of resilience that echo through Victorian London's shadows, carrying you toward a peaceful close. Death comes in many forms, each a silent thief. Syphilis, as we've seen, is a slow killer, its sores and fevers eroding your body over years, leaving you wasted, mad, or blind. You've seen girls vanish from the streets, their names whispered in lodging houses. Syrah, her face marred, begging by the Thames. Lucy, locked in an asylum, her mind gone. Violence is swifter, a client's knife, or a pimp's rage, ending a life in a moment. You've heard of women found in alleys, their throats cut, or floating in the Thames, their deaths barely noted. Another unfortunate, the papers say, if they reported at all. Addiction claims others gin or laudanum, dulling the pain. Until the body gives out, a slump in a doorway called a suicide, to avoid questions. Despair, too, is deadly. You've seen girls walk into the river, their steps deliberate, their eyes empty, choosing its cold embrace over another night of suffering. The graves of these women are unmarked, their names forgotten, their lives erased by a society that used them and cast them aside. You've passed the churchyards, their stones crowding together, but none bear the names of girls like you. The poor are buried in pits, their bodies piled with quicklime, their stories lost. Some end in the workhouse, their final days spent in labor and hunger, their deaths unremarked. Others are found by the river, their bodies claimed by no one, their fates a warning whispered among the living. The city moves on, its pulse unbroken, its hypocrisy intact. Men who paid you preach virtue, women who scorned you mourn fallen, sisters from a distance, and the slums hum with new faces, new stories, new tragedies. Yet there are glimmers of resilience, faint but real. Some girls escape not, many, but enough to kindle a spark. A kind client might offer a way out, a rare marriage breaking the cycle, though society's scorn follows even then. Reformers, like those led by Josephine Butler, begin to stir, their voices challenging the contagious disease's acts and the hypocrisy that fuels them. They open shelters, small havens, where a few find refuge, though the need far outstrips the help. You've heard of these efforts, whispered in the lodging house, but they're distant, a dream for others. Your own resilience is quieter. Each night you survive, each coin you earn, each step you take is a defiance of the odds. You share a laugh with another girl, a moment of warmth in the cold, and it's enough to keep you going, if only for another day. The sensory weight of this end is heavy. The fog curls tighter, its damp soaking your dress, the cold numbing your hands. The city's smells sewage, smoke, rot cling to you, a reminder of the life you can't escape. Sounds fade, the hawker's cries, the tavern's laughter, the clatter of carts leaving, only the soft lap of the Thames, a lullaby of finality. Your body bears the marks of this life hunger's ache, a bruise's throb, a fever's heat, and your heart carries the weight of exile, the knowledge that you're alone, unseen, unvalued. Yet you walk on, your steps steady, your breath visible in the chill air, a quiet strength that refuses to break.